Last week they lost at Creighton. It was a little bit of a beatdown, right? They lost by 13. Then they go out and they get themselves down by 24 points at Missouri before fighting all the way back. They actually had a chance to win that game. I think they cut it to 2 at one point late in the second half before losing that one. And you turn around and you beat NC State at home by 15. My contention has been it's a weird roster fit, right? You got two guys that can't really shoot. Hunter Dickinson doesn't really have the space that he needs to operate. They want to run offense through him, but that kind of takes away the advantage that you have of him sealing and posting. And AJ Storr is probably not the right guy. I don't know. I'm gonna let you go ISO here, CJ. You can go 1-4 low and just cook. What is wrong with Kansas, and can this thing kind of get turned around back to the point where we're talking about them as the best team in college basketball, like we were back in the offseason?
I was never talking about him preseason number 1, I'll tell you that. But I had some concerns coming into the season, and I think that we've kind of seen them recently. Like, I don't know that they necessarily made the right moves in the portal. I think the idea was to throw shooting around Hunter Dickinson. And Zeke it kind of goes back to the Kentucky conversation we had earlier. Like, who are the NBA players on this team? And I don't know that they have one. There may be a couple of guys that develop into that maybe someday, but I don't know that they have one. So talent-wise, like, this isn't what we're used to seeing from the elite Kansas teams. And then you went out and you got some shooting, and the shooting hasn't really shot that well. You're always having at least 2 guys on the floor that don't shoot it that well. To me, this team looks really, really good when 2 guys play well. Like, when Hunter's out there, he's been pretty consistent for the most part. We know what KJ Adams is. I think when DeJuan's playing with confidence and, like, there's a little more pop to him in some games than there is to others. When DeJuan has confidence and is playing well and can at least make some shots, and if you're going to dare him to shoot and he can knock down 2 or 3 threes and he doesn't have to take 20 shots to get there like he did against Creighton when they didn't guard him at all, that's good for Kansas. And then Zeke Mayo, to me, is like, that guy has to play well and be aggressive for them to be a good offensive team. I think they've got enough defensively most nights because DeJuan's so good at his position. KJ can take away so many different people. We saw what he did to Flag. I think they've seem to be able to get up for really big games, and they've kind of maybe lost in these games where they maybe maybe don't look at the opponent and give them the credit they deserve. But I do think there is reason to be worried about them from the 2 results, last week. And I don't know that they're quite right yet, but we'll see what after Bill Self gets his hands on this team and kind of molds it, because he's talked about, like, I don't know what our identity is yet. And I think that's really true. And I think the biggest thing maybe they missed on was they needed a dynamic wing scorer, and they went out and got AJ Storr, who really just doesn't fit with Bill Self, because Bill Self likes people that take good shots. And AJ Storr is a guy that he's just kind of a volume dude who's not very efficient, isn't always going to take the best shots, and that's just not going to work in a Bill Self offense. So I think maybe they took the wrong dude there. Now, who's not to say that he can figure it out at some point and kind of fit in this with this team? But so far it hasn't worked out. And when DeJuan and Zeke are good, I think they got a shot. When one of those 2 guys is off, there's not as much room for error. Am I talking myself into something?
This is what it comes down to with Kansas. The refs have completely screwed them from the beginning of the season. They're not getting to the foul line at all. Like, how does Kansas not get to the foul line? The officiating has had it out for Kansas the entire freaking year. They don't like Hunter Dickinson. They can't get to the foul line. When you're 361st in free throw to field goal attempts, like, the referees just aren't giving you enough.
And that's where having a dynamic wing scorer comes in, right? Like, you're joking, but, like, having a guy that can really put pressure on the rim, that's what AJ Storr was supposed to be, and he hasn't been that for them yet. I think Fog Allen
just ain't what it used to be. Fog Allen just ain't what it used to be. That's what it comes down to. They're not intimidating the officiating crew like they used to do. That's what this really is. They can't get to the free throw line. A lot of what you're saying is true. I think part of it is Hunter's dug himself into a hole because refs just don't want to believe anything that happens inside 8 feet with him. I'd say that kind of facetiously and jokingly. At the same time, I think it's partly true. He's been there so long, and he's always kind of done like these little sneaky, and I'm not going to call him dirty, but like some gamesmanship types deal with him. They're not giving him, like, you got to get to the free throw line if you're Kansas, especially at home. Like, they're not getting there. They only get there in 20%? I'm not sure how to read that stat. All I know is they don't get to the freaking free throw line enough. That's what this comes down to. I agree.
You know how to read the ranking.
I agree with you in terms of not having a wing scorer that's kind of dynamic. That hurts. And, you know, it kind of is what it is. I think you're throwing a lot into Hunter's lap. And Hunter, like, is he a winner? It's a question. So, like, is he going to be able to carry your team every single night when you have DeJuan out there who's not a shooter and KJ who's not a shooter? So it makes it really tight out there for him. And you're trying to throw everything onto him. It makes it really tight.
When it's going well for Hunter, it goes well. When it's going well for Hunter, when it's going well for the team, he looks good. When I will say the last 2 years, when they've had some games where it's going not so well for them, he struggles. Like he does it. Everything kind of needs to be in the flow, and things need to be going well for him. When the pressure gets on and they have to like win ugly, it's not always his best night. But I do think the encouraging thing about yesterday, I guess, and I don't think NC State's any good, but the ball did pop. That thing was moving around. Bill Self, you know, he wants to get multiple sides of the floor. I thought that was better. I thought their ball movement in those other 2 games wasn't great. So there were some encouraging signs for that game, but it's one game at Allen Fieldhouse where it got away from NC State right away. So we still need to see way more from Kansas than just yesterday, but it was a step in the right direction.